Now it's time to think about how to interpret the coefficients in a logistic regression model. Looking back to our example model, we've already decided that the interpretation of the intercept is when market volume and volatility are both 0, there's very low probability, so the probability is near 0, that it is indeed an option's expiration date. As with the intercept, when we think about each coefficient, we can start in the way we're used to with a linear regression. An increase of 1 share of market volume is going to result in an increase to the log of the odds ratio of this amount, this tiny, tiny decimal. And of course, we have to say the words on average, because again, the model is a trend. Increasing the log odds ratio means increasing the odds ratio, the ratio of p to 1 minus p. And if we increase the odds ratio, it means we're increasing the probability of success and simultaneously decreasing the probability of failure. So increasing the market volume by 1 share on average is going to have the effect of increasing the probability of success or increasing the probability that it's an option's expiration date. Now, an increase of 1 share of market volume is totally meaningless. It's economically insignificant. And the reason is because 6 billion shares trade in a given day on average. So 1 additional share is no big deal. But 100 million shares increase would be a big deal. So when you multiply 100 million shares change by that very small decimal, you're going to increase the log odds ratio by about 0.11. And that might mean a sizable change to the probability of success, the probability that it's an option's expiration date. Now, I'm not saying that the probability of success increases by 0.11. I'm saying on average, it would increase the log odds ratio by that amount. So be careful. We can't say that we're changing the probability of success by the amount of the coefficient. We're changing the log odds ratio by that amount on average. So the interpretation here is that increased market volume means it's more likely to be an option's expiration date. I'm not expecting you to add a specific numerical amount because we really can't say how much it changes the probability that it's an option's expiration. So on this slide, I'm really walking you through what I'm thinking, but getting to that bold part at the bottom is really the answer to the question of what is the interpretation of the coefficient for market volume. Let's do the same thing with the coefficient for VIX, the volatility index. An increase of 1 point in the VIX index would decrease the log odds ratio by 0.4. Decreasing the log odds ratio means decreasing the odds ratio of p to 1 minus p. If we decrease the odds ratio, it means we're decreasing the probability of success and increasing the probability of failure. So it means that we're decreasing the likelihood that it's an option's expiration date. Increasing the volatility index by 1 point is economically significant. This volatility index is measured, it's typically about a 10 or a 12 lately, maybe sometimes a 15 on a particularly volatile day. But during a crisis, it might rise up to 20, 30, 40. And during the crisis of 2008, it went up to about 80 at one point. So a 1 point increase on a day-to-day basis is economically meaningful. So we can say that that 1 point change is meaningful. But our real interpretation that we're getting to is that increasing volatility means it's less likely to be an option's expiration date. Intuitively, that makes sense to me because on options expiration dates, things tend to move in the same direction. People are making changes en masse as they interpret what is happening in the market. It's not a heavily volatile day, an options expiration day. So I would agree with that statement that the model is agreeing with my intuition. But again, I'm not saying that we're changing the probability by 0.4. I'm saying that the overall log odds ratio changes by 0.4 and it's decreasing. So we're reducing the overall probability that it is an options expiration day, that we're having a, quote, success here. And that's how we interpret the coefficients. My suggestion would be to refer back to these videos as needed, especially the one called Rule of Thumb.